I guess I need to open up a public hearing to consider an application of designated Superior Township zoning amendment number 153 RZ-21. We have to do that by roll call vote.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Mr. English?
Yes.
Mr. Cheney?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll just read the whole. So this is, we are a recommendation from the zoning to consider an application, as I had said, designated as Perry Township zoning amendment number 153 RZ-21 filed by Romanelli and Hughes Building Company at 148 Shock Road, Westerville, Ohio 43081, which is proposed as an amendment to the Perry Township zoning resolution. This application proposes to rezone property located at 5500 block of Riverside Drive, Dublin, Ohio 43017, in the city of Columbus from PUD-4 Columbus to Planned Residential District, which is PRD Section 414 of the Perry Township zoning resolution. Do I have a representative from the applicant?
Matthew Cole on behalf of Romanelli and Hughes.
Would you like to say anything, Matthew?
No, I mean, I think this was, you know, a long process that we're finally at the end of. And I'm mostly here to answer any questions if there are any.
And do we have anybody from the public that would like to speak? Hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve the application?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve Perry Township zoning amendment number 153 RZ-21.
I will second. Vote.
Yes.
Yes. Then we're gonna close out.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna I'm gonna move to close this public hearing of zoning amendment number 153 RZ-21 by roll call vote.
Mr. English?
Yes.
Mr. Cheney?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Okay, we are back in regular session.
Thank you all very much. Do you need anything else from me at this time?
I believe so.
Matt, this is Beth Beatty. I'll be sending you the formal documents of approval probably tomorrow.
Thanks for all your help.
Thank you.
Okay, looking for a motion to approve the regular session minutes of May 17, 2021.
I'll make that motion. Go ahead.
Vote?
Yes.
Yes. Public comment period, Brookside.
As is listed further down in the agenda, we will be holding our neighborhood garage sale on July 10th. And Chief, I believe I included you on that message about requesting support from the police department. You're on.
Yes. And we will make sure we have an officer there.
Perfect, thank you.
Not a problem.
And then, of course, as all know here, our entrance sign was hit by a car this weekend. Just managed to go right in between the two poles there at that corner and demolish our entrance. So my hope is that the zoning department will be kind and not file a grievance against us for having a big, huge pile of stone.
The question is, how tall is your grass?
That's true. It's gonna be hard to mow around it. I mean, clearly when we hired our landscaping company for this year, we weren't clear enough on what we were looking for. But so work will be underway to remedy that. That's all I've got.
Could be lack of payment. Worthington Hills.
Meeting of the board is this Wednesday. The parade and all the July 4th festivities are underway. I know the police are have their plans in place, fire department, EMS, road department. I think we're good to go. I talked to the chair today. They don't have anything for us at this point, but probably will after we meet next week. So appreciate the support from the township.
Okay. Anything else from outside of the Brookside and Worthington Hills that we need to talk about? Okay. I'm gonna switch things up so we can get Mike on. So I'm gonna drop down to road department and so we can talk about speed bumps because we've got Mike on the line. So if you guys don't mind, we'll rearrange the schedule a little bit. Mike, thanks for joining us. I think we did, Ian, I think you're up if you want to lead the discussion on this.
Mike Andreyko is here from Franklin County. He's the mobility engineer. He is going to interpret the traffic study that was done for us by the Franklin County engineers.
Yep, thanks, Ian. Commissioners, nice to see everyone virtually. I'm Mike Andreyko. I'm the mobility engineer for the Franklin County Engineers Office. And as you know, we work as the engineer on behalf of the township in many ways. Currently doing some school zone exhibits for Ian and the team right now to bring those up to compliance. But one thing Ian had mentioned to me was that there was some speed concerns along McVeigh, and I mentioned that our traffic counters do collect speeds. So we agreed to put those out in 2 locations. One location was north of Merwood on McVeigh, and the other location was south of Darwin on McVeigh. And we counted for a 24-hour period, and then we provided the results of those counters. I had mentioned that speed humps were something that the township was looking at. And I had mentioned that as a policy, the county doesn't install those on county maintained roadways, although our roads are not suburban in character. So it would make sense for us not to do that. But in a suburb with 25-mile-an-hour streets, we have no objections to speed humps. They definitely do slow speeds down. As long as police and fire are okay with it, maybe the residents in the area are fine with it, then we think that's something that would be a good countermeasure to address speed. So to interpret some of the data that we found, we provided these at 2 locations. So we have broken out between northbound traffic and southbound traffic. And in both locations, the northbound traffic is very similar to the southbound. So when I discuss the results, I'll just kind of combine the 2. But what we found is that there's not really, what we would think of as like an alarming speed problem along McVeigh. We found that over the 24-hour period that we counted, we'll say that, 63%, I'm looking, and 67%. So north of Merwood, for northbound, 63%, southbound was 67% of traffic was going within 5 miles of the posted speed limit. So that's pretty good. That's the majority of the traffic. And then when you go to 10 miles over the posted speed limit, which would be, I'm saying 34 miles an hour and slower, 92% for the northbound location and 98% for the southbound location. So for all intents and purposes, most of the traffic is going within 10 miles of the speed limit, and the majority is going within 5. So, if we were looking at this in the county on a roadway that people were complaining about speeds, we would see this as something that it's not an enforcement issue, because I don't think you're going to write a whole lot of tickets if you're sitting out there. We would recommend maybe a radar speed limit sign, which I know you already have out there. So now, Ian, do you have one in both northbound and southbound locations, or is it just the northbound location?
We have signs that kind of rotate around the township.
Oh, you do? Okay, so it's not a permanent sign.
The only one that's been permanent is the one beside, it'd be northbound McVeigh. It's been kind of permanent.
Okay, and that's a good location for it. But one of the things you could look at is doing a permanent location for southbound traffic on McVeigh. and comparing, I guess, the two locations, when I look at the area south of Darwin, or let me go back. So southbound traffic was going a little faster than northbound traffic, I believe. Let's see. Okay, so northbound traffic is still going a little faster. So south of Darwin, you have 78% of the traffic was going within 5 miles of the posted speed limit in the northbound location, and 81% for southbound. So, you know, let's say 80 and like pretty much 80% in south of Darwin, but north of Merwood, we were looking at 67 and 63. So south of Darwin, I believe that the speeds are much closer to the posted speed limit. So if either of the two locations, like if you were trying to pick which one you would do the speed humps at, it appears that the north of Merwood location traffic is going a little faster. Again, nothing alarming, but if you were to compare the two, I would say that the north of Merwood would be the location for the speed humps. I provided a standard drawing to Ian. This is City of Columbus installs lots of speed humps on Columbus roadways, and they have a standard drawing. We obviously don't have a standard drawing because we don't install them. But if you did install them, I would recommend sticking to that standard drawing, as that's what has kind of been the practice of Columbus, and it's kind of been through various iterations. So I would be happy to entertain any questions you have.
And this is Michelle Elliott, if I may, just to clarify. So you're saying that traffic on the north side, or coming from the north side, which would be in our case, Snoffer at McVeigh, I mean, actually where they took out our sign this weekend, that's the faster traffic coming into the neighborhood from that side.
Yeah, well, North Van Allen, so we do two traffic counters, one for northbound, one for southbound traffic, but both the counters that were installed north of Merwood, so yeah, that northern end of McVeigh is where we're seeing the speeds coming in and leaving, but on that section of roadway.
Gotcha. I understand now. So I know we have talked quite a bit as a township about the speed bumps as an option, speed humps as an option. But really, the goal is just to try to bring down the number of speeding cars. I understand to your point that it's not excessively speeding, but with the school on that road and no sidewalks, et cetera, all of those things, there's just a lot of factors that create alarm for the residents. Are there other suggestions you might have other than speed humps that would?
So if you look up proven countermeasures to address speeding, you'll start to see things like planting of street trees, installing some kind of in-street not a barrier, but like maybe a curb narrowing. So we have what we call curb bump outs. So at your intersections, you can kind of bump the curbs out a little so that it narrows that opening. So people have to drive a little slower because it's a more narrow opening. So if you have side street traffic side street parking, at the end of where your side street parking would stop, you would install, narrower lanes to kind of make the road narrow up a little. And that doesn't work as well if you don't have curb, but there are different ways you can kind of narrow the field of view for the driver. What I found, especially in suburban areas, is cars seem to drive faster on wider roadways. So the wider your roadway, the faster someone feels like they can drive comfortably. And if you make that feel narrower, you will reduce speeds by doing that. And so a lot of the proven countermeasures for speeding have to do with narrowing the visual for the driver so that it feels like you're driving down a narrower street. So in your case, the radar speed limit sign seems to be pretty effective. You could add one for southbound traffic, permanent one. And then, selective enforcement, obviously that's always, try to enforce it, especially in times of day where you feel like speeding is an issue. Make sure you're enforcing your school speed limit zone and during active times. And that's it. I mean, speed humps are pretty effective. So if you were, thinking about that option, the only thing that sometimes residents that live near them will complain because cars will slow down to go over them and then they accelerate. So that noise of that acceleration bothers people. Also, when trailers hit them, they make noises. So if people drive through with like a mowing trailer or something like that, that you'll get complaints at that. But for the most part, they're effective and they do their job.
Hey, Mike, question, on the report that kind of breaks down the volume and the speed, I'm noticing that there's some that are, it had zero volume, but it's registering at 0 miles per hour. How is that? Is that just something that if nothing's coming through, it's automatically registering that, or why does that show up?
Yeah, what we've provided was more of a summary. So when you look at if it's a low sample size, sometimes it gives weird results. So what I did was I tried to summarize it in more of a percentage wise. So so many cars are driving at this speed or lower, just to kind of look at the piece of data as a whole, as opposed to because you could look at it, and a lot of times when we provide that, someone will say, whoa, somebody was driving down the street at 75 miles an hour, and and like, well, that's obviously an outlier, that's not a normal thing. So I like to kind of focus on what's the average, what are the trends that you're seeing. If there's 2 or 3 cars that are going over 50, that obviously that would be a if you could be out there when they do that, then you could catch them, but otherwise you're not going to be able to stop that. Speed bumps, I guess, would stop it, but I like to focus on what's the what's the majority of the traffic doing, and how do we bring that back into the range that you want to stick to. So that's why I say I really didn't see a huge problem. Now, if I saw only 50% of the cars were driving 10 miles over the speed limit or less, then you're like, well, okay, half the cars are speeding that would get a ticket. That's obviously a problem. I would think the numbers that I'm seeing here, with the majority of cars 5 miles an hour or lower, and then almost all of them 10 miles an hour or lower, I would say that it's not too big of a problem. So I wouldn't say right now it's an enforcement issue, because I doubt you're writing tickets, to a lot of those vehicles.
Oh, go ahead.
Mike, one of the other things that I kind of look at are signs. I know an example for me is it is I recognize, but when I'm on Hard Road or 161 near one of the Wilmington high schools, I mean, they'll have signs about, obviously it denotes the speed that you're going, and it'll also indicate sometimes slow down if it hits a certain point that you set that sign for. And
Yeah.
these are generally more permanent signs than we have, because we rotate those speed monitors around the township. If we were to hypothetically, and not just to try to go to a solution to the problem or a solution to the concern, if we were to install, say, hypothetically, 2 permanent signs over there that would 24/7 tell speed, tell people to slow down, would that be as effective as speed bumps, or would that get the traffic into the range that we want it to be?
I would have to look up and see that they have. The Federal Highway has a list of countermeasures, and they have scores with them that say how effective they are. I would have to compare the radar speed limit sign countermeasure to the speed bump countermeasure, and to see which one is more effective. I would think, common sense would tell me that speed bumps would be more effective, because you physically have to slow down. You don't have a choice, otherwise you could lose control of your vehicle. Where the other one is more just, kind of speed limit shaming you, that it's the sign is blinking at you, telling you to slow down, so you should slow down. I can say that I live on Grandview Avenue, and there's one right across the street from me on Grandview as you come up the hill. And every time it flashes at me to slow down, I slow down right away. And it's just a reminder, and I think people, they don't think about how fast they're going until the sign is like blinking at them, telling them to slow down. So I think the radar signs are very effective, but if you were to compare the two, my guess would be the speed bumps are even more so, because they're finite, they force you to, they're physical barriers in the roadway. You have to slow down.
I'm sorry.
One more question, and I'll go back. So the one thing about the speed bumps, we've talked about doing temporary speed bumps. And I have to say, I'm not a pro speed bump guy, but not for a variety of reasons. But the temporary speed bumps that we have seen, and I wanted to know if you knew of some alternatives out there, require them to be pinned down as temporary speed bumps.
Yeah.
And then, are there temporary speed bumps that you're aware of that can be used for maybe like a week, 2 weeks, that can't be pinned down or are secured in another way that don't take away the integrity of the roadway? Meaning, I'm not driving up down through the asphalt.
And the intent with that process was to allow residents, first of all, to see how much of a difference it makes, and second, to allow residents to understand what additional noise they may hear, or
Like you mentioned.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, to try it before you buy it. Yeah, no, I understand. So I've installed those before in a parking garage, but the temporary speed bumps. But I never installed them in a roadway. The only ones I know of, you have to pin down. But that being said, I don't know if it really damages your roadway that much. The pins can then be removed, and the hole's filled with grout, and it's probably not going to affect the structural integrity of your road. There might be a mark when you're done, but I don't know if it would really affect the pavement that much. I mean, regularly you would take cores of your pavement and then fill that with grout, and that's a standard testing method. So I would think that you could probably still use those and then just fill the holes if you wanted to try it. But I don't know of any that you don't have to pin down. Everything that I've seen is you have to put the pins through them and hold them in place.
Well, the reason I have concern about that is there's 72 pins.
Well, it depends on
You know what I can do though? So Paul Peterson, I think, is who I got them from when I purchased them and put them in a parking garage. I used to work for Gehanna back in the day, and that's who provided them to me. And I feel like there were way less pins than that. So I can call them and see what kind of models they have and see if they have an option for something that would do less damage than that.
That'd be great.
Yeah, with the understanding, to Chet's point, we're looking at really truly temporary. We're not going to have them through winter or anything like that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah.
Pardon me. One of the things that, of course, we've heard from our police chief, and I'm sure there would be other concerns from safety personnel, is the difficulty in going over the speed bumps. You've got a person in the back of a squad, an ambulance, you've got the equipment obviously on the fire truck. I know you mentioned that you sent kind of a profile to Ian, and I apologize, I'm certainly not an expert on that, but is there a way to make that less impactful for emergency services if we were to do it, or how do we solve or address those concerns?
Well, I would recommend having them. I don't, if you have one that in Columbus that of that you can drive over, if you can go to a location where one meets the dimensions of that drawing. I mean, it's 14 feet wide, and I think they even have another one that's even bigger, for maybe higher speed roadways. But the problem you get into is if you start making them easier to go over, then they lose their effectiveness. I think the standard speed for the 14-foot wide version is 15 miles an hour, and anything over that, you're you're gonna kind of lose control. I think that's the standard one. But if you went for a bigger one, then they could drive 30, 35 miles an hour over it maybe, and it wouldn't slow them down. So I think the concern would be if you go through the whole process and you still don't fix the problem that you were trying to fix. So I would think if you found a street, and I could probably provide you a couple examples where the 14-foot ones exist, and have maybe the police drive over there and take a look at it to see if it's something that they would want. That speed bumps they come in all shapes and sizes in parking lots and that type of thing, but on roadways you want to keep them as standard as possible.
Sure. I appreciate that. I mean, I am not really pro or con speed humps. I'm just, pro trying to solve this issue. So it's, I'm just trying to figure out what the options are, and I don't want to create other issues for our emergency services or anybody else. So any input or suggestions you have is certainly appreciated.
Yeah, and then so again, I'll reach out to Paul Peterson and see what they have as far as availability. But I'll try to find something that's similar to what the Columbus standard drawing shows, because I think the last thing you'd want to do is put in one that's more abrupt than what you would be proposing as a permanent, because that would maybe lead people down the wrong path.
So, Mike, I just got two real quick questions. Why doesn't the county engineer put bumps on roadways that you maintain?
Most of our roadways are 45 miles an hour or faster. We have very few roadways that are 35, and I have hardly any that are 25. So our roadways just aren't. They're not. You wouldn't want to put speed bumps on a road that's not 25 miles an hour. So our roadways just aren't good candidates. So that would be the main reason. And we've always kind of felt that it's a vertical obstacle in the roadway, and we're in the kind of in the market or for removing all vertical obstacles in the roadway. So why would we place one in the roadway? So I think with the sheriff's office and all the different emergency the different emergency agencies that we have to deal with, we wouldn't want to start down that path. I think one of the concerns that I've always had with speed bumps is once you put them on one street, then everybody's going to want one. So you'd have to have a methodology for why speed bumps are placed on this street and not, every street in your subdivision. And I think with McVeigh, you have McVeigh is what we would call a collector. It collects a lot of the traffic and takes it out to the major streets. So the minor streets in there that are local and wouldn't be considered collectors obviously wouldn't rise to they wouldn't have the amount of traffic volume, and they wouldn't have the need for speed bumps. So you'd want to make sure you address that before you did anything permanently. So that would keep more people from asking for speed bumps on their roadway.
Although certainly I'm sure there's some exceptions. Most of we don't hear residents on the other streets looking for speed humps, with just a couple exceptions. It's really the McVeigh, and not just the local traffic, but the cut throughs from 161 to Snoffer So
yeah, whenever you have a through street through a subdivision, that's usually the street that you'd be looking at doing them on.
Any other questions?
I think so.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.
No problem. Thanks for having me. And I'll email Ian with the results that I come back with.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Chief, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Do you guys know, have we ever had a incident in Brookside along McVeigh, like pedestrian, vehicular incident, anything that you can, I know you've been here a while, anything that you can think of, Michelle, anything that?
I honestly, the only one that I recall is a girl getting hit at I believe it was a girl, a young person getting hit at the intersection of Snoffer and 161, or I'm sorry, Snoffer and McVeigh. I don't recall how many years ago that was, but I actually think it was on the city of Columbus side of that intersection. So
Was she a resident of Brookside?
I don't think so. I think she went to the school.
Okay,
So
But,
it's north of that or that intersection, I guess.
but,
well, she was
north,
crossing the
north.
intersection.
It's crossing, okay.
Yeah,
but nothing,
but not on, to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah,
I mean, I
right.
know obviously we get the hit mailboxes,
Yeah,
those kinds
yeah.
of things.
or people running into it.
Anecdotally, I've been told we've had some close calls. I think on a few of those, chief, your guys might get called, but I don't think it's,
Yeah, I don't know of anybody that's been struck in the time I've been here. I talked to a couple of our folks that have been retired and asked them, if they can remember, and no one can remember anything in the last several years, that's for sure. So I had asked Lori to check reports and she didn't find any reports that indicated that we'd had any pedestrian struck.
yeah, I honestly don't believe there have, I mean, knocking on faux wood here, I think we've had real or perceived close calls, but not actual until we do. I
Okay.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on road?
That's all I have this evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll move back up to zoning, under old business. I moved to declare the property owned by Naomi L. Taylor located at 98-7 Lordstone Drive in Perry Township a nuisance. So moved.
Second.
Vote,
Yes.
yes. Anything on Thompson Street development?
Actually, funny you mentioned that, I received a meeting invitation, with councilperson. Am I not thinking of her name?
Right.
And with the city for next week, there was no agenda provided. So, I mean, obviously we know that's the topic, but no specifics about what that was. So more to come on that.
Okay. Under new business, we got some positions that are moving out and moving in. So I'm gonna just start at the top and start making motions. I move to accept the resignation of Matt Ward from the BZA effective June 4th, 2021.
Second.
Vote,
Yes.
yes. I also move to accept the resignation of Dan Deagle from the zoning commission effective June 8th of 2021.
Second.
Vote,
Yes.
yes. I move to appoint Brian Steele to the Board of Zoning Appeals effective June 4th, 2021 through the term of December 31st of 2022.
Second.
Vote,
Yes.
yes. Anything else under zoning?
Sorry.
Garage sale.
I just did want to mention, there is one other gentleman that's interested in participating on the boards. We're just trying to determine what the best fit is for him. So.
This is the motion to waive the,
For
all
the
right,
fee.
so I move to waive the Brookside garage sale permit for July 10th, 2021. Vote,
Yes.
yes. Fire and EMS.
I don't have anything. I haven't received anything yet, but I should have it by the next meeting.
Okay. You're up.
I don't have anything. I don't have anything on my agenda.
What? I'm confused. Hey,
Great.
Chief, would there be an appropriate available time where I might be able to just touch base with you about the incident with the signage at the entrance? Are you
Yeah.
available?
You know what? I'll be in all day tomorrow. Give me a call whenever you're free.
All right, thank you.
Nothing under the development director, and it moves us to the administrator.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make mention on the ODOT 161 corridor study. Ian, Joe, and I went out to meet with the county. You want to kind of give them a gist of that, Ian?
They were just reviewing the plans. If I remember correctly, that was financial year 2022.
I believe so.
2022. Joe, they were just going over the plans, and I don't even have the sheets on that, the notes on that here.
Right, they did go on after they met, and it was just a very brief meeting to see if anyone had any questions or concerns and give us a gist of what their process was gonna be, and then we left and they started doing their site surveys. So, we'll just wait to see when we hear back from them. The second thing I just we added this is facilities. I just wanna let y'all know, that we've kind of been talking and trying to look at this, it's two paths. One, what can we do now to create a little more space, a little elbow room inexpensively? So Ian and Steve and Lieutenant have been kind of looking at building 1 and building 2, trying to come up with some ideas. Something where we're not putting so much money in that it would hurt if it had to go away at some point. And then the facility so far is looking long-term. Steve and I sat in on through Morpsey. I think it was Morpsey, wasn't it, Steve?
Yeah. Yes.
And they were just throwing out all these different funding sources that are available. And so we need to learn more about that. There was just a lot of things being thrown out there and not a lot of description behind it. So we're going to kind of start trying to look at what kind of sources are out there and understand what those sources are and how they work. And then once we kind of get a handle on that, we'll come back and let you all know. I did talk to Joe today. He wants to get together this week. We did get some information back that he would like to go over. So I'm trying to coordinate that meeting with him. And that's really all I had for that. We talked about increasing the hours for our intern to 30, and I forgot to get a motion for it. So could I please have a motion to increase from 20 hours to 30 hours per week?
No, I'll make that motion to move our intern to 30 hours per week.
Okay.
Vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. About a year or so ago, they came out with faithful performance of duty coverage, but it was very, very limited. It was more focused on elected officials, but you had to wait to your next election cycle in order to get it. They've now broadened the scope where elected officials can get it anytime during their tenure, and staff can get it as well. And the positive of that is it provides coverage for if there's a loss of funds while public officials or members are performing their duties. The bond, a surety bond is not going to protect our personal assets, where this will, so that it keeps everything in-house, obviously, if they need to represent the township in any kind of case. So I would like to ask, in your packets, there is a resolution which just authorizes Perry Township, Franklin County to authorize the purchase and use of an employee dishonesty and faithful performance duty policy through the Ohio Township Association Risk Management Authority.
I will make that motion.
Thank you.
Second?
Vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and you received a couple different correspondences from Aqua. We got an initial correspondence and a revised correspondence, and Chet wanted to speak more about that.
So this is a 12% increase. It's a significant increase. And now I know that the way the law has been set up is that it looks at costs that they have incurred in the rears. So they have a very specific number that they can account for, but it's still 12%. And I'm just thinking that money is extremely tight. Our residents are going to want to know that we are at least on record of taking a position on this. And although I know in the past Aqua has put money, invested money into the area of the township in which they service, but I think that it would behoove us to consider passing, and I don't have anything in writing right now, Mr. Chairman, but if we were to put something together in writing to indicate our position, but obviously before that We kind of want to know what the board thinks about a 12% increase in their water bill. Again, I don't think anybody's going to be kicked out of their homes, but it's just another issue.
May I ask a question just about the law that allows it? Does it require that where they're implementing the increase or propose to implement the increase, the work has been done in that area to justify that?
No, it's
Because I know they have
it's
done
system-
work here, but
it's
it's just
system-wide.
system-wide.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So it's all
it could
kind
have
of,
all been somewhere else.
it could have all been
theoretically,
somewhere
and-
else. Yes.
Yeah.
In the argument that the utility will use is that, well, when we were in your place, people up in Boardman Township and
Sure.
Coney County paid for your infrastructure. Now you're having to pay for their infrastructure. And I'm not denying any of that. I just think 12% is significant. And I think the
It
board
is.
needs to take some kind of position with PUCO to say, hey, we just have some concerns about this. This could pose a hardship to our residents in some form or fashion.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Particularly if you factor in the past increases that they've done.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure when this goes before the PUCO, but I think we could probably have something for our next meeting. If that would be okay. We'll
Yeah.
kind of work on it together, send out drafts and have something ready.
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Cool. Anything else?
I think that was it for me. Thank you.
Fiscal officer.
Okay, so first, not on the agenda, but just a heads up that, you know, as you folks likely know, the folks were on site doing our audit last week. They had anticipated 80 hours to do that work, and they were actually able to do it in 52. So that will reduce the cost of that we pay for the audit from 4,000 down to 2,600. And that is in large part to Beth and Mary always having everything together.
Larger
And
part
easy
to
to
Mary.
find.
Thank you
So,
very much.
Thank you to both of you. Okay, on to the agenda. I request a motion to return the police department advance of $200,000 to the general fund.
I will make that motion.
Second.
Vote.
Yes.
Yes.
And for fire and PMS,
Fire and
that's a
EMS.
fire. Oh, fire and
Something is
EMS.
on your
That's
mind.
good. I'm glad that's recorded. Please make sure in the minutes too. That would be perfect. Fire and EMS services requesting payment. That's where the P came in to the city of Worthington for $183,537.43.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's try this one again. For the city of Upper Arlington, request a motion for approval of payment for fire and EMS of $43,022.
I will also make that motion.
Second.
Vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Request a motion for approval of payroll and disbursements.
And I will make that last motion.
Second.
Vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Can I add one more
That's
thing?
plenty.
We were talking, it's been mentioned if we're gonna continue the virtual meetings or not. I did want to let you know that I reached out to Senator Coonsey's office, and her legislative aide there said that they believe that amendment is being considered with the bill to possibly extend or allow permanently virtual meetings, but nothing's been put into law yet, so, thank you.
They may tag it. I just heard that today. They may tag it to the budget.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
he indicated, yeah.
Be the easiest thing.
I'm assuming though that would be with the idea that some folks would be able to come in, but still ability to maintain.
Yeah, well, you can still, the way it's coming across is you can still do all virtual if you want, if this is approved. But I think most people are coming a hybrid, right?
Okay. So we could have some number of participants and then.
Right.
I mean, like Andy said, I mean, if there's somebody that needs to come before the board, but they're at another meeting or they're traveling or whatever, I mean, it's just convenient.
Yeah.
So the user.
I mean, we were recording before this is, and it's not, I mean, we have all the equipment. It's not like we're doing it. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's actually another benefit.
I agree.
To be able to,
Oh,
watch
for
meetings
sure.
and so I
Play
don't have
back,
an
play
issue.
back
Do
my
you have any-
misstatements.
I think we continue. Last thing is, we are going to go into executive session. So I move to enter into executive session to consider the appointment and or compensation of a public employee by roll call vote.
Mr. English?
Yes.
Mr. Cheney?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
All right, we're in executive session.
Just 1 second, folks. Goodbye, Mayor.